Here's Paul's love song that got fucked up last week. This clear time of seeing embers, a gold bright sun's lost in first dusk. What frenzied senses, desperate musk, are consort of remembering, consort of remembering, consort of remembering. Night's pearl censored requiem, 'tis for us. What joys run then, 'tis for us, bright in your eyes, bright in your eyes. What flower spangled amores pull at our hearts, what flower spangled amores, what flower spangled amores fill our desires. What I'm saying is, you look good in a still suit, baby. Yeah. Hello and welcome back to the Kill Your Gods podcast. Dune, Part 8, the final. We are covering Book 3 of the original Frank Herbert's 1965 Dune, The Prophet. My name is Jesse Dram. I am your host as always. Thank you if you made it this far, or if you just heard the songs and want to try this out. I had a complete tech meltdown last week where none of my shit worked. I had to call in some favors. Shout out Neil Wood from the Cult of Us podcast. Always check him out whenever you can. He helped me out with a new mixing board, and turned out that had the same problem. Just my computer sucks. My computer decided to mute my microphone, and that was all it was the entire fucking time. It just couldn't handle my rock. I was recording that song, and the vocals were just not coming through, and then the whole thing just pooped its digital pants, and then stopped working. But yeah, we're back, and guess what? You're gonna have another song after this, the famous Gurney Halleck "I'm So Sorry I Tried to Kill You, Jessica" song. I love Gurney Halleck. We finished the book. And my guest this week is Brandon Gorin. He's a comedian that I was going to say Philadelphia. I believe he is a Baltimore guy. He just hangs out up here a lot. But yeah, he's a very good man. Check out everything he plugs in the beginning of our interview. Hilariously, I told him he wanted to be on the podcast because he loves Dune. I said, okay, well, we're doing Book 3, so do your research. He read all of Children of Dune and not the segment of the original Dune titled Book 3, The Prophet. But he knew his Dune well enough that we kept up with it. We had some laughs. We had some ha-has. Tune in next week for what's going to be a hell of an episode. We are doing the best and worst, covering, ranking, reviewing all 32 Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes. There's going to be some changes coming to the podcast in a few weeks. I don't know what they will be. There's a very good chance that books are going to move onto a Patreon, because I love talking books. It's a lot of fucking work, and I think it's not really good for the format podcast. Guys, it's really not good that, like, oh, check out this podcast. You can check out every 1 out of 8 episodes, because they're sequential. So, you know, I need stuff people can drop in on out of nowhere. I think we're going to become a bit more of a chit-chat podcast. We're going to talk about stuff, all the same stuff you've liked, books, pop punk, QAnon. I don't know. That was a big episode, but we're gonna see. We're gonna take this podcast places. But thank you for coming along the ride, and thank you for coming with us on a trip to Arrakis with me and Brandon Gorin. I want to thank all the guests that have appeared that I have to look up right now because my memory is shit. That's something that happens when you record a podcast. Is literally once the week's episode is done, your brain just scraps every memory of anything you discussed, which is why I feel bad for people when I see people who get like canceled for shit they said on a podcast. just because, like, I get it. I don't remember anything I said on any of these podcasts at any point. I'd like to thank my guest from episode 1, Robin Parrish. Check out reparishcomics.com. She recently wrapped up her epic parody of Amadeus set in the American Greek frat system, Brahmadeus. Robin Parrish. After that, we did an episode with the hosts of the Reading Dune podcast, Evan and Caleb. Then comedian Samantha Paget, comedian Casey Kuftick, and then musician Burn the Bastard, and then comedian Donna Shannon, who we had on last week. That was a great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed Dune. Like I said, I ordered Dune Messiah, so we will be having an episode on Dune Messiah. I just think it might be on a Patreon, because again, it's a lot. It's a lot of effort to put into for something that's really not welcoming for, new listeners. But hey, again, thanks for coming along. Thanks for coming to Arrakis. I hope you give your lover some water in whatever form that feels good for you. And I hope you like the songs. Like I said, the last one was Paul's love song to Chani. That was very distressful to Lady Jessica. And the one you are about to hear, our final song in the series, is Gurney Halleck's I'm Sorry I Tried to Kill Your Mom. I Feel Bad. Orchards and vineyards and full-breasted warri and a cup overflowing before me. Why do I babble of battles and mountains reduced to dust? Why do I feel these tears? Heavens stand open and scatter their riches. My hands need but gather farewell. Why do I think of an ambush and poison in molten cup? Why do I feel my years? Love's arms beckon with their naked delight, and Eden's promise of ecstasies. Why do I remember the scars? Dream of old transgressions, and why do I sleep with fears? Live from my underpants, it is the Kill Your Gods podcast, and we are wrapping up the epic saga of the original Dune novel, Dune, 1965 by Frank Herbert, and we're knocking out Book 3, which I know has a name, and I didn't look it up, but that's okay. My
I can
guest,
tell you, it's the same as 3 in the trilogy of Dune.
is it actually the same one?
I think it's called Children of Dune.
I'm gonna look at my guest this week is a comedian. He's a friend of mine, Brandon Gorin. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I love daytime podcasting. I'm wearing sweatpants, and this will be done, and I get to go do groceries. Like, and I'm very excited about that. I love Zooming stuff.
We have we have friends coming to visit us that'll probably be arriving while I'm recording right now.
That's amazing. That's the best. We did it. We make art and then you just go and do the rest of your day. Like, why do we go back to live stuff? I hate it. It's stupid.
No, if anything, this has taught all of us that really deep down inside, we were all agoraphobics trying to make this work out, but we all prefer it at home.
Yeah, everybody, I think it's funny that so many people are like, I can work from home. I'm never going back to a workplace. That's just what everybody did. And like, that's one of my favorite, that's one of my favorite things. I can't do it because my work is physical labor. But I just, everybody went, yeah, what if I just didn't go in and I could still do this? Don't worry about it. Like, much of our jobs can just be at our own house. And that's amazing.
Yeah, it really has been a complete slap in the face of managers across the country trying to justify their position of like, well, if I'm not like, these people are basically fucking animals. Like, if I'm not looking directly over their shoulders, they're jerking off in their cubicles, they're making bomb threats. Like, no, it turns out work gets done pretty okay. If I can have my kitty cat on my lap all day, turns out I'm very productive.
Yeah, well, also, like, if you're at home, who cares if you jerk off? If you get and make bomb threats, go on, jerk off, and then get the job done. Go
as
on.
long as the company is not liable, okay? The bomb threat, the hostage note was not on company stock, therefore I'm okay.
Yeah, and it was one of those bomb threats that you can just make now, apparently. So yeah, good for them.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'll be the first to say it. Bomb threats. I think people need a little follow through on that. It's been so long. Like, if you're not gonna make a fucking bomb anyway, why not just be a complete over the top dickhead? Like, yeah, you know how you have SATs on Sunday? Well, guess what, superintendent? You got an alien invasion coming your way. Like,
Yeah,
if a bomb's not gonna happen, like, fuck it, go for the fences.
Yeah, just do something fun. Have fun with it. Bring a little creativity. Put some sass into it. Walk with your shoulders a little bit.
Exactly. Express yourself.
Yeah.
With terroristic threats.
Yeah.
Before we get too far, where can we find you online? Anything you have to promote? Would you like to promote those awesome Lasagna Club shirts? Because I love them.
Yeah, well, you can buy them. I make them. So if you just DM me, I make parody Bullet Club shirts that are Garfield based. Because I'm part of a non-wrestling group, which is happening in November. You should check out Awful Wrestling. I'm not actually sure of the date, but you can catch me on the Awful Wrestling show. I'll be selling shirts. I'll be talking trash with my good buddy Lemaire Lee. On November 4th, I have a show at the I have to look this up. At the Interstate Cafe, it's called. That's in Philadelphia, PA. That's at 7. That's November 4th. I have a gallery that's open right now. That's at the Milburn Theater called Everything is Always True All the Time. And a lot of this happened before you showed up. That's a lot of digital work and some physical paintings. You can check me out at the Raven Lounge, the longest continually running comedy showcase and open mic in Philadelphia, every Thursday, except for Thursdays where I work elsewhere. And then Mondays, you can check me out at Nacho Mike, if Nacho Mike is happening that night, where I help run that mic too. And
that's at Punchline in Philadelphia, Punchline Comedy Club.
Yeah, that's at Punchline. Drop in. I usually give out stickers because I like giving people stuff. And hang out, say hi. You can buy some stickers off me, and we can talk about stuff. We can talk about Dune 3.
Yeah, that's exactly how we got here. By the way, yeah, Brandon is a great artist. I really dig your stuff whenever you're posting it on the interwebs. So
thank you. Well, I sent you a piece of customized art for you, and then you had the audacity to point out that I spelled it wrong.
I listen. I didn't know whether it was for me personally. I didn't know if it was for publication. I felt I owed you the responsibility of letting you know. Yeah, Brandon made a very cool spiral piece of artwork with the phrase "faint within a faint within a faint" that we're going to be discussing further here. Unfortunately, faint was spelled with an A and not an E, and I felt the need to let him know. I told you I have a misspelled tattoo, so it is not from a place of judgment.
No, it's totally. It was one of those things like you sold it like I'm gonna break. It's gonna be real bad, buddy. And I'm like, oh shoot, show's over. We're like, you don't like me anymore. We're fighting. And you're like, you made a goof on the spelling, and I was like, oh, That's nothing. And the funny thing is, like, I made that piece like at lunch. I was like, because so we'll get into it when I guess we get into it. But it's my favorite line of the books that keep showing up. Everybody likes the fear line, but for me, it's the faint within a faint line because I think it shows what the books are about better than anything else. The deeply.
But then again, herein lies part of my confusion because so we only discovered as we began recording that we had a bit of a misunderstanding, and that Brandon, instead of looking into book 3 of the original Dune novel, was looking into book 3 of the series Children of Dune. However, book 3 of the original novel is the one which has faint within a faint within a faint, which I think is part of the reason like we didn't catch this sooner, because it seemed like, yeah, that's right, he just read that.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I mean, I read Dune, so I remember. It's the one I remember the most of the three. It's the because like the third book is the one that I could not remember to save my life. So I was like, I should reread this. And then apparently I forgot that was broken into books. I just totally went up on it that it was broken into books. I'm like, yo, yeah, the third book. So I have studied for the wrong test. I will be pulling from my own memory. We're going to talk about Paul. We're not going to talk about the creepy twins, because let me tell you, book 3, wait for it. There's some creepy twins.
Ooh, okay. I'm looking forward to that. Well, all right. Since you brought it up, what is your background with Dune? Where did you first find it? Tell me the effect that has had on you and your artistic life.
So I'm gonna say something unpopular. I'm a David Lynch guy, and I like that movie enough. I think it's a nice piece of like weird cheese, and it's weird. Like, it's a very strange movie. I actually think the David Lynch version of Dune catches how still the book is, because like Dune's a very weirdly still book. It's a lot of people staring at each other, thinking 1,000 thoughts, and then making one tiny movement, and that one tiny movement means something. So I read the first book at the beginning of the pandemic, and then I was like, I like this. And well, actually, let me go back one more. When I was in high school, my best friend's older brother, who was like the cool stoner dude, right? But like, he's successful now and he has like kids and stuff. It's fine. He's like what you think cool is when you were in high school, but like then you get older and you're like, dude, you were like 21 and living with your parents. That's not good. Like, it's weird that you were like being too high to talk and then talking to me about Dune for 25 minutes while I had nothing to say about it. So that was like my first introduction to this book, is like, this is what cool stoners read. And then I kept threatening to read it. And then the pandemic happened and I was like, yeah, I'll read this. This is something to read. And then I read it and I was like, well, I'm going to read all of these books, or at least all the original Frank books. And then I got to book 3 and then I was like, that was good. Maybe I'll read the next one. And the next book after book 3, it's in the summary, takes place 3,000 years after the book before that. And I was like, I'm going to wait. And then I reread book 3 for this. Oops. And then I was like, maybe I'll read book 3. And then I realized again, book 3 takes place 3,000 years after the last book. I'm like, I don't need to read this. But yeah, I read it and I like drew a lot. It was a good pandemic book because it's just so big and dense and weird that it was just something to kind of get lost in that world. And I like Dune a lot. And the summary of Dune 1, the direction it goes by the time we hit book 3 is very funny to me, because it's can I say it? Can I say how I feel the book is?
Yeah, go for it.
So this is what I think book 3 happens. By the time you hit book 3 is Paul realizes he's a god and can see the future. Because he can see the future, it's changing his brain, and he realizes unless he basically has to be super careful, because if he doesn't do exactly the right thing, centuries down the line, he's going to cause endless genocides. And it's basically a god, like if the Christian God realized that like if he fucks up, he's going to cause like the Spanish Inquisition, and just like watching a dude be like, no, yep, no. And And like you could see the future, so like you could dominate everybody. But if you like punch this dude who is mean to you in the face, you're like 30, like in 20,000 years, they're gonna talk about the punching of the face, and then all these babies are gonna get punched in the face. So I can't do that. Like that's like the story of the first book is a god trying to stop a genocide years down the line by staying on the golden path.
And I really do like that, like epic scope of the entire thing of just like the ripples throughout time. I think that is one of the big appeals of this book.
Yeah, and like how and like the ripples through like space and like how dense it is. Like Frank was living in like a lot of sci-fi writers, he was living in his head a lot. There's stuff he'll just throw in there. There's a part of this book in the third book which is so weird that never shows up again. I'm just going to tell people because I don't want them to be disappointed. Never shows up again in the books. You know when the brother, the other Benny Gesserit dude shows up and he's like, "Why can't I see that guy in my memory?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let you know right now. It's not a spoiler. There's no spoilers in this. That will never show up again. That
never
is
fully answer why he does not recognize Count Fenring from all of his. Okay.
Nope. Because what's going to happen, I'll let you know what happened. There's going to be, every book has like huge time jumps. Every book has just like, and this happens by the time you hit the second book, we're like 25 years in the future, maybe even more. And then the one after that, we're 10 to 11 years in the future. And then the one after that, we're 3,000 years into the future. So there's this.
So it's a little bit like The Godfather. The first one is 7 years, and then after that, it's a jump of like 20 years. And if they ever make Godfather Part 4, we're going to be looking at Don Corleone the 37th, and he's actually that's just Dune 1. He's harvesting spice on Arrakis.
No, I from here on out will believe that the Godfather trilogy is actually secretly part of the Dune trilogy.
It's a hidden prequel.
Yeah, that's also one of the things I really like about Dune is it does take place really far in our own timeline. Mm-hmm. So every once in a while they'll say stuff that like is specific to like it came out in like the 60s and the 70s. Someone will be like, "Yeah, that's kind of groovy, dude," I say in the ancient tongue. And like that's such a funny addition. And like I was thinking like if it was written now, it would be like, "That's lit, my fam," I say in my ancient tongue to show respect. And it's just like it's such a weird thing that like that it takes place in our own future. So like just little scraps of our own timeline are there.
I do like when Paul and Gurney Halleck are reunited, he keeps referring to him as man. Like, Gurney Halleck, man. And it's like, yeah, that was today. Like, Gurney Halleck, what's up, brah? Like,
yeah, what's up, I do. I say in the ancient tongue.
And we greeted one another in the ancient ways.
Yeah, we dabbed up, you know, like in the old
times. Fucking ancient, like too sweet.
Do the sacred ritual of the suck it to the enemies.
Emperor Padisha, suck it. Your Highness, suck it to you.
All
right. Let's get into some of the summary because I feel like we're going to get into everything else at some point or another. I really, because we're doing the entire book 3 here, I really tried to condense my notes as good as I can. And that worked really well for like the first 8 or so chapters. And then everything's just fucking sprawling. So the intro, we have a little bit from the Muad'Dib, where it just talks about the friendship between Count Fenring and the Emperor. Whatever. But the princess also describes the negative aspect of their friendship when the Emperor ordered the Count to kill a man, but he refused to do so, despite it being within his capabilities. So basically describing the very end of the book, which we'll get to in a little bit. 2 years have passed. The Baron Harkonnen is in a rage after a slave boy he sent for his pleasure tried to kill him with a poison needle. He believes it is an attempt by his nephew Feyd-Rautha, and he is right. Feyd reminds his uncle that he taught him to always get someone else to carry out his dirty work. Baron Harkonnen offers Feyd-Rautha a compromise. The Baron will step down as head of House Harkonnen in the not-too-distant future, allowing Feyd-Rautha to succeed him as the rightful heir. He tells Feyd that he wants to place a Harkonnen on the Imperial throne, making use of Hawat's intelligence to come up with a plan to defeat the Padisha Emperor. Baron Harkonnen also comments on the new religious leader among the freemen called Muad'Dib. Neither he nor Feyd-Rautha realize that it is Paul or just how much they are in peril right now. So, little quick one there. I mean, we've all been there. You try to get your uncle murdered because he likes him young.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like the Baron is one of my favorite characters because he's just like in a world where everybody's and very ambiguous. Like the whole part of the whole point of Dune is like there are different belief systems, and those beliefs. What is morality? What does morality mean? That is one of the big questions because
Right.
a morality to a city dweller and a desert dweller are completely different. Because like if you break a leg and I'm a desert help me out,
Freeman.
Freeman, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, if I break a leg and like I'm in the desert, your job is to shoot me in the face and walk on and take my water and go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and a city dweller is like, or their whole morals are you would lift and you would carry your brother. And there's that great scene in the start of the book where a dude spits on the table and everybody freaks out and they're like, no, he just offered you his water. This is big. He offered you moisture. This is a huge thing. And in all of that, the Baron is a scumbag. He's a scumbag through and through.
So I did not think about that in a book that's very moral relativism, like look at it from all sides. Our villain is very much just like a fat snake, just like, man, I want to eat the little boys' penises.
Yeah, he's just this disgusting fat snake robot who like is like it's gross because like Frank, I'm feeling a little homophobia here, a little bit. I taste it. It's on my tongue a little bit, but it's very of its time because like he's
Right.
just and in a story where it's about desert and about like you're not just we're both of us who are we work out, we look okay, we go on Dune. They're like, you fucking drinking water every day, you weirdo. You look water fat like crazy. That's disgusting. And then there's this dude who's just like this fat blob, a robot, and you're like, that's the bad guy. That one's definitely the bad guy. So like he's such a good, clear villain.
It's funny. I forget where I was talking about this. I think I was talking about this with Frank Neblett of all people the other day about how one of the reasons for homophobia, if you look back to like tracks from like the 40s and 50s, one of the particular like perspectives people had on it is it wasn't even that people were gay. It was like, oh, they're such sex fiends, they need to fuck everything. So it was like a judgment on indulgence overall, in which case, water would very much come into this. It would look like hedonistic and disgusting to be so wasteful that like you could become fat on water. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. And like that, that's a persistent thing. It's just like it's not, which is a weird dude thing, by the way. That's an us thing. That's like if I was gay, I'd be fucking all the time, which I wouldn't. I'd still be me, weird loser who talks about Dune on a Saturday morning. But and I also it is one of the weird. There's a lot of reoccurring themes in Dune, and one of the weird ones is everything is poisoned for some reason. That's a big Frank thing. Frank just loves poison and stuff. Like you can't just stab him. Like all you need to do is just get grazed. And I think that's it. I don't even know what to do with it. Like it's just a fact about Dune that everything is poisoned and everything is about tiny little movements. Like, and then you have this big slob of a man, and there's a feint within a feint within a feint, and everyone's playing for themselves, especially in the first book.
Well, I do think a lot of this just comes out of the fact that he wrote a lot of this book while he was living like on sandy, natural dune acreage in like Oregon or something like that. And it does seem like the basic idea of a dune is something, it is this mound that is built across centuries from like, trillions of tiny little movements. And obviously where that plays out. Because I do stop and think about that every now and again. Just like, I just got married. I believe you're married. We're trying to have kids. And it's just like, in the moment, it's like, well, yeah, I'm 35. This is what I do. But really like, oh, also, this is determining like this will be a ripple that will continue throughout the eons until my bloodline comes to an end, you know?
Yeah, I think that's. I also want to make this clear. You and your wife are trying to have kids. You and me are not trying to have kids together.
Look, we did our best,
We
and I
tried.
think we should be proud of our effort.
It was a lot. It was actually everyone thinks it's gross what we're saying. It's actually a lot of science.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's interesting is like you set up a world, which that's what Dune 1 is really building, where like everything is these tiny little motions and these tiny little movements and these plans within plans within plans within plans and these wheels within wheels and these game and everyone's playing like chess. And then you create one character, you take the time to create one character who can see all the moves at the same time. And it almost immediately drives him mad. Like within moments, he's like, I don't even know if we can do this. And that's such an interesting point of view.
Yeah,
And like,
the point of view of an overwhelmed god.
yeah. And like, what if you could see the future? What would happen then? And I like Paul a lot. I just wanted to say that. I needed to share that. Where were we? He's one of the few characters in Dune I legitimately like.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, no, he's a good one. Before we get too far, I have a silly haha question based on the relationship of Fade Rautha and his uncle Baron Harkonnen. What is the best lesson an uncle or a male relative ever taught you?
I've been thinking about this, and I had an uncle, and he would I didn't. Here's what he taught me. You know those cans on the side of the road, the construction, they're not cones, they're the barrels.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, orange and white candy
Yep,
corns.
construction barrels. Sometimes they put water barrels inside of them, so if you hit them with your car, it'll fuck up your car. So don't do that on purpose.
All right, that is some good uncle logic right there.
That
Because
is,
it is pure uncle logic in that it sounds very much like information you did not ask for, did not
mhm.
need, yet was given.
And like, oh, I was like 12 when he told me this story. It wasn't like it was my first time driving. He was giving me a lesson. This was just something that he needed to let me. And it really he's not with us anymore. But it's one of the ones I'd like to be like, how did you find that out? Because you know that dude hit a bunch on purpose and then fucked up his car. That's the only thing that makes sense. And he told me that like it was the man trying to keep him down. Like they don't tell you this, but I'm gonna let you know. Sometimes they put water barrels in the construction barrels, so if you hit them with your car, it'll fuck up your car. Like they were trying to trick him. Like
Yeah. Can't trust anybody these days.
I trust just people putting water barrels in regular, and that's also one of those things. I've thought about this a lot. I don't think they do it to fuck up your car. They probably do it so it won't get blown over by the wind. But in
Yeah.
his mind, they were like, they're out to, it's a feint within a feint within a feint. I go to hit their construction barrel. They put water in their construction barrel, one ahead of me every time.
God. See, I was trying to think of my own answer for this, and it's a weird one. I have an uncle who he strongly encouraged me to I don't even know if I want to talk about this. All right, now I had an uncle.
Uh-huh.
All right. More importantly than an uncle, I had a father, and my father was a little bit on the racist side.
Mhm.
My uncle found out there was a very cute African American girl who had a crush on me, and at the time I was like 20, and my uncle was like, "Yo, that cute little black girl's all up. Why aren't you doing anything?" Like, I don't know, man. I just think about what my dad would say, and he pretty much said, "Pussy is more important than your father."
Yeah,
And
yeah, well,
I mean, hey, it was a very small step in getting over latent racism. So, hey, that's something.
yeah. I think that's a powerful way to overcome the sins of our fathers is to go, listen, that dude's full of shit. He stopped it. I think, don't trust anyone who's stopping you from getting consensually laid.
Exactly.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
let's get back into this. Sorry, I feel like that was a very clumsy point to make, but it was the first thing I thought of. And my Uncle Rick is awesome, and he's the reason I can play guitar right now. So shout
Yeah.
out Uncle Rick.
Well, yeah. I'll leave the dude's name out of it, for this, but he's the reason I don't go around hidden construction barrel.
All right, chapter 2. The quote at the front: "Deep in the human unconscious is a pervasive." I need to say this book in particular has the best intros of all of them, because a lot of them are kind of sprawling, where these are a bit more concise. "Deep in the human unconscious is a pervasive need for a logical universe that makes sense, but the real universe is always one step beyond logic." Damn if it ain't the truth.
That is so, and that's the quote you want from Dune. Like that's like the semi-psychedelic, like all of Dune, especially that first book, vaguely feels like you're on some sort of psychedelic the whole time. Like he does a good job of like, there are big trips and there are little trips, but we are on a trip the whole way through. I think that's one of my favorite things about that book. The whole time I was like, am I a little high right now?
I mean, I think that's what I like out of fiction more than anything else. I like little bits of condensed wisdom like that. I feel like Kurt Vonnegut was kind of the champion of that, where like you could read a collection of just sentences he wrote across decades and feel smarter. Like the one that always sticks with me is we become what we pretend to be, so we must be very careful what we pretend to be. That could have been pulled right the fuck out of this.
Yeah, you know what? I want a Dune where like all the quote, like it's exactly the same, but each section has one Kurt Vonnegut quote as well, just like an addition to it. And then some of them don't even make sense. Like, so I'm 50 years old, so I drew a butthole. Like that's just one of the quotes for some reason.
So says the great Muad'Dib. His 50th year.
Kurt Vonnegut drew a butthole, which is one of my favorite books of his, by the way. I've read everything by Vonnegut. I have a Vonnegut. I'm that white boy, the Vonnegut tattoo white boy. Do you have a Vonnegut tattoo? Yeah.
I don't have a tattoo yet. I've thought of it. I've considered it. I don't know. Maybe I'll get a butthole on my ankle.
That's sick. That's better than the tombstone that everybody gets.
Oh yeah, everybody gets the tombstone. Actually, I got close to getting one, and that would have been like a couple's tattoo, the Betty and Bobby Brown from Slapstick.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, sorry. Wrong author. I could talk forever.
Yeah. I'll have you back for a Vonnegut cast.
Fuck yeah. I'll take him down a couple notches too. I'll fucking fight him.
Yeah, dude, I keep wanting to see. They have a documentary coming out about him, but there was an unauthorized biography that came out of him about 2 years ago, and apparently he was just this miserable old fucking man that was still bitter about a bunch of shit. And I know a lot of people were upset about that because it kind of ruined the hippie guru thing. But dude, I love hearing how fucking flawed my heroes were.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing about Vonnegut. Like at the very least, he was dealing with some real depression, and like he tried to kill himself. Like that's a fact that just is a Vonnegut fact. Like he tried to commit suicide. He like brings it up casually in his work and then moves on with his life. Like he was dealing with real life shit. He also
what?
He was in World War II. It fucked him up forever. That's the entire point of Slaughterhouse-Five.
Yeah.
If you boil it down,
yeah, he completely had the propensity for suicide and depression long before he watched, a city get murdered while he was in it.
Yeah, while he was there. Just America killed a city one time. They killed a lot of cities and stuff.
Yeah, think how traumatized you listener were after a bad breakup. And then imagine if that bad breakup was Becky got incinerated while you were a prisoner of war. And think how that affects your trajectory. So it goes. All right. Hawat also reveals that he believes Arrakis is a planet of harsh conditions that has bred an elite fighting force. Baron Harkonnen is astounded to learn that there are likely 10 million freemen on Arrakis, a number wildly larger than his earlier population estimates. Hawat recommends that Baron Harkonnen should turn Arrakis into a prison planet that creates powerful military forces by abandoning Arrakis to Rabban's oppressive leadership for some time without offering aid. Then the Baron, or Feyd-Rautha, can take over rule of Arrakis and its strong soldiers. Secretly, Hawat is hoping that some of House Atreides have survived and are now thriving on the desert planet. So that one's kind of a blip in the story, but we're going to see how this ends up happening. Like, this is going to end up being the downfall of Rabban because the Freemen are going to get word of that right away. Like, oh, they're not offering him backup right now.
Yeah, it is sort of it's one of those like this is all just moves. This is all everybody putting their little chessboards.
Yes.
This is and putting the moves to make everything set up, and yeah, it's not. It's yet again everyone, and this is a book that has sandworms in it, and we've watched sandworms eat stuff, and a whole chapter is just like, here's a plan, and that's it. That's the whole fucking thing, and
Everybody making their small, minute little moves that affect the entire board.
making their Benny Jesuit single muscle movements.
Yes. All right, let's keep rolling into the next chapter. Again, the intro here from the collected sayings of Muad'Dib considers the pattern of the universe. Natural phenomenon such as changing seasons have a balance and grace that humans try to imitate at an individual and societal level. However, there is danger. In such perfection, all things move toward death. So yeah, I find this one interesting. And this is something I've also always noticed. I feel like kind of the half-handed way people discuss nature, because you see people talk about nature like, this is natural and therefore good, but when people speak highly of nature, they tend to ignore like the brutality of nature. Like they think of it, they don't think of it beyond, I'm going to spend an hour in the woods and then go home.
They think about there's a certain level of like, so it disconnect when you talk about it. Like, yeah, there is and it's that changing rules system, and no one thinks that. I was in the garden today because I have a garden, you can tell by looking at me, and there was a praying mantis, and I was like, oh, that was nice. And then I looked at it, and it was eating a live bee, and the bee was stinging it as it was eating it, and it didn't care because it was a praying mantis. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, nature is brutal, dude. Like, that's brutal.
You're watching like, oh, look, the little praying mantis tends to their, like, meanwhile, it is like a death match. A CZW death match is happening in your garden.
Yeah, like just in front, like I watched it. It was worth like a death match. There's consent. This is just brutality on top of brutality. And like, yeah, it's that argument of like, usually there's consent. I don't think that guy who got his finger cut off said he was gonna be okay with that.
Yeah, that's a weird story. Go look up CZW finger cut off and find out how hardcore wrestling is going these days.
But yeah, well, hey, Nick Gage is here for the trans kids. You ever watch that video? I know I'm getting.
I have not.
Well, Nick Gage, right?
Yeah, Murder, Death, Kill.
Murder,
well aware.
So he has a video, and he put out.
I think the bank he robbed is in my hometown, actually.
Oh, that's cool shit. He wears a bandana every day. Why not just pull it over your mouth, dude? So that's not my joke. So he has a video where it's Nick Gage doing the Nick Gage thing, and he's like, "I'll fucking murder everybody, and trans rights are human rights, and if you don't believe that, I'll fucking kill you." And you're like, "That fucking rules." Dude. That's sick as fuck. Sorry, my wife's texting me.
See, that's activism. That's activism I can get behind right there.
Yeah. But back to this, I think it is interesting, and that's sort of a reoccurring thing. Is like, there is this like these books are about ecology. That's why Frank Herbert went out to write this, is because he was they're environmentalism books, but they're not easy environmentalism, which is interesting. Yeah. It's like Dune is a hard world that they're actively trying to change, and it might cause real bad things if they change it.
Well, I don't know if they state it outright, but they do. It is kind of hinted throughout the book, like, oh yeah, no, this is a very hard place. Also, we might be intentionally making it harder than it really needs to be.
Yeah. Well, and it's they're the free are they're survivalists, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's their whole thing, and to try to recreate nature is to deny that you are part of the nature around you. And I think that's an interesting point that is being made. It's also kind of interesting that I keep calling him Frank because we're good friends. Man, he just puts his beliefs in a living God's mouth, doesn't he? Like he's just like, yo, this is what he said this. The living God said this, but Paul Atreides said this, but he's probably right. And I'm like, well, you made him up. So you actually said this, buddy.
It's a great thing about writing fiction. Yeah. All right, so Paul and Chani are now a couple, and they have a young son named Leto 2 in honor of Paul's father, Duke Leto. Gorin, you have a son tomorrow. What do you name him?
Oh shoot, that was one of the ones that you sent me, and I was like, what do you name? I don't know. I feel like Paul's probably a cool name. I like Paul. I'll go with Paul. We're talking about it.
Yeah. All right, we'll go with Paul.
It's one of the things that's interesting about Dune is there's two types of names in Dune. that pull from like crazy, that pull not from crazy, but pull from non-Western ideas
Mhm.
and are to me alien. I'm not entirely. I don't want to speak out of turn and be like, oh, you know, where this name is completely alien. They're like, actually, that's an old Irish name. Like, oh, well, I'm an asshole. Uh, and then one of the big characters, just a dude named Duncan Idaho. Like Idaho
Yeah.
is a major space name for a man. An important spaceman who's a good sword fighter is named Duncan Idaho.
Yeah, they give him the voice of like a pop country fucking Duncan Idaho with his with his new single don't get your tits on my grits.
Oh, I was gonna go. Mama won't let me chase sandworms.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Mama, don't let your sons grow up to chase sandworms.
my wife laughed in the other room about that. I want to let you know. We were talking. There was like a polite chuckle in the other room. She's not a Dune person, but she's like, "That's a well constructed joke. Good job."
Hell yeah. So we meet Paul's younger sister, Alia, has also been born, who, you know, we know Jessica has been pregnant, but she was also pregnant when she was taking the Reverend Mother test and has given birth to an abomination unto the universe.
Yeah,
She
a
is a,
prequel.
yeah, she's a strange child. Despite being only 2 years old, she's self aware and walks and talks like an adult. Like her mother, Alia can also access ancestral Bene Gesserit memories. Many of the Freemen dislike her due to her strange and worldly ways. Yeah, Alia is something else. I'm looking forward to more of her.
I will stay comfortably. She probably has the best character arc in the original trilogy out of anyone else. And if
Hmm.
you like Preborn, we got more Preborn coming. And let me tell you, there is nothing creepier than Preborn. I hate them, and I agree with the. I agree. They are abominations. They're
All right.
the
So
idea.
real quick, I don't think they have used the term
Oh,
preborn yet. No. That's enlighten me. I think I understand what you're getting at, which is, you know, like pretty much becoming sentient in the womb. Is that?
yeah, yeah. That is what did you say? I'm trying to match the names in my head are different than the names in your head because it's a book. You are probably correct. I've she's always been Aaliyah in my head.
Oh,
Um,
no. Her name is Aaliyah. I just don't think at this particular book, because she's the only one, I don't think preborn has been a
yeah,
term that's been applied yet. But I'm assuming if you said specifically there's going to be more, so there would be a word for
yeah,
what
but
happened to her.
yeah, but no, I'm just making sure that my pronunciation of like words in this book are different than yours. I
Hmm.
say Aaliyah. I think you said it differently.
Oh, I
Uh,
said Alia, but I'll, you know.
No, it's they're all made up fucking alien. That's another example. Like it could maybe it's Alia. It's a billion years in the future space name. It could be anything.
Yeah, I'm sure we could find an Alia on Instagram right now or Aaliyah.
Yeah. I mean, you can find Aaliyah. She died tragically in that plane crash.
Oh,
So
dust yourself off and try again.
yep, she not after that crash. That's too sad. So yeah, she's but like I find them so annoying. I don't like Aaliyah. I like we're gonna do the ones we deal with in the future, but she's a preborn, and it's not the idea that you become aware too early, and you because you become aware, you have the memories of all your ancestors, but also all your ancestors desperately don't want to be dead.
Hmm.
So they're gonna. Tr- I don't. I don't
They're
want
gonna
to get
try to act through them.
so yeah, they that she is constantly um, having to like fight down other personalities that want to eat her personality so that they can exist again. Because the one thing we want to do more than anything is to continue to exist. Uh, but yeah, Aaliyah, a little creepy. Adult children, I do not find good. I did not like them in Akira. I do not like them now. Old kids, you can keep your old kids.
Yeah, old kids got no use for them. All right, back to the summary. Paul has risen in Freeman ranks to become a respected and worshipped religious political leader. Despite his elite position, Paul must still prove his worth by successfully riding one of the immense Arakeen sandworms. Stilgar shows Paul how to mount a sandworm using equipment known by the Freeman as maker hooks. The basic gist is what they do is they pull open a flap with a hook near the ring on one of the worms. And to keep sand out of it, the worm will naturally turn and have that part be upmost. So like, again, I like when sci-fi goes out of its way to just give a little like, here's how you would actually ride a giant worm. I've thought of this. I'm Frank Herbert. I have nothing better to do.
Yeah, that's like I think that's the appeal of Dune is there's so much like I have thought of this. This is actually what you would do if Dune, and it doesn't even need to be there. I guess it explains why the spice trade happens. Dune just goes, listen, there's no artificial intelligence. We jihaded that centuries ago. Don't even, and like that's such an important one of the big things that is Dune, the series is what happens if we didn't use AI and computers. Well, there would be a planet and it would be full of a drug that's like cocaine, caffeine, LSD, and you would use it for space. What do you think spice do? Would you do spice? Would you get addicted to it? See the future? You
I
told them.
mean, dude, fucking marijuana hits me kind of hard. So I don't know if spice might be a bit too much for me.
Um, I'm gonna. Do you mind if I tell a very personal story real quick?
Go for it.
One time, I don't do drugs. Like, I drink, but and I got nothing against it. Other people can do it. That's fine. But
Mm.
here's why I don't do drugs. One time I took a CBD gummy to try to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently it had trace amounts of THC in it. And I fucking OD'd. I OD'd on a CBD gummy. I fucking had I had like a trip, and the spice orgy where Paul starts staring into the darkness, and that's what makes him the god. That happened to me on the marijuana. That's a real thing. This is the Paul moment. Oh no, I see everything. So like that's such a that's I just yeah, it's good to get that off my chest. But yeah, that's also my relationship with Dune. Is one time I was too high on a CBD gummy, and that's all I could think about was Dune. Like that's the whole that's Frank Herbert's whole fucking thing is like, what if this, then what happens then? And I think
Right.
that's he's almost better at that than writing believable characters.
I mean, hey man, some drugs can cause introspection, and that's one.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You got that from a see. I don't fuck with edibles of any kind because I do. I try. I'm trying to. I drink an unhealthy amount. That's why. So I'm trying to find like the constant. You haven't found your strain yet. So the only thing that gets me through being too high is just like I just need to ride this out for 2 hours. That's it. Edibles, edibles. You have an entire work shift to make it through, and I can't. So
Yeah, and it wasn't. And also, I want to remember that I didn't take an edible on purpose. I went, surprise, you're on an edible, and I do not do drugs. So then I thought,
all edibles.
so yeah, I know what spice is like. I think.
Yeah. All right. Jumping into the next chapter, we have our quote at the beginning: "Control the coinage and the courts. Let the rabble have the rest." Thus, the Padisha Emperor. Yeah.
It's good, dude. That's fucking rules.
Thus the Padisha Emperor advised you when he tells you, if you want profits, you must rule. There is truth in these words, but I ask myself, who are the rabble and who are the ruled? All right, vote 2024. That's what that sounds like to me.
That, every sentence, every part of that was better than the last. I love that.
So we get to finally see creepy ass Aaliyah in action. She enters Jessica's room with Hera, who is Paul's basically like servant wife. You know how this works. You kill a lady's husband, and then she's just around for a few years.
Yeah, she's just your servant wife. There's nothing you can do about it. That's how the rules work for them.
Yeah, I do like Hera though.
You can't be happy about it. You can't be unhappy about it because if you were like, listen, I don't want to take the servant wife, to like, well, now we have to kill this woman.
Yeah.
Our belief, so like, don't you want what you're saying by not taking the servant wife? Your grandstanding isn't going to make her life better. We will kill her now. So
and if you remember, she was still upset that he wouldn't take her on as his woman because she was like, I'm still really hot. Have you noticed that? I'm still young. I still got everything still in its spots, but
yeah. Do you see how well this suit fits me? This fucking water suit. My heel pumps are amazing. Get out of here.
Oh, I never thought of like the gender differences in a still suit. You think they give them little heels for the ladies, little cupping?
You know what? This is written in the '60s. Yeah, they do. It sucks that they do, but yeah, they do. Frank
Ooh,
Herbert in his head, the still suits in his head, the ladies, it's hot. Like in his own brain, it's hot. Unfortunate. It's unfortunate that he thought that way. But yeah, it's the 60s. What are you gonna do?
coming out for summer 1996 Arrakis collection, the new mini skirts still suits.
No, I hope that Dune movie takes off so that we have fashion shows with still suits.
I would love that so much. All right, so Alia enters Jessica's rooms with Hera. Hera informs Jessica that Alia has been causing trouble, hiding at the recent birth. So yeah, this is hard. Everybody's already terrified of her. There's a newborn baby that's just screaming, and Alia goes up and just touches it on the forehead, and the thing is just silent. And everybody in the room just goes like, "I don't like that fucking kid."
They're so creepy, and I don't. They're creepy in a way that maybe it's because I'm not a kid, dude. But like, if it's the question of like, if a kid was like, "Hey, how you doing, buddy?" and you're like, Why are you asking?" Like, I don't know. The market's been down, and I just. You're like, what the fuck do you know about the market? Well, I was trading some Bitcoin. Like, what? You were trading Bitcoin? Well, yeah, it's the only market you can trust. We really need to go back to a gold standard. You're like, what the? You're 8. What are you talking about? And like, I hate. There's this thing that's going to happen in the later books. This is not this is not spoilers. So that preborns are going to be there. But one of the reoccurring things that preborns happens is they are children who will yell at adults and go, "I am not as young as I seem," and I hate it. I hate it. I hate these little adults so much.
When I have a kid, I am teaching them to say that when they're angry. Just can you think of any creepy kid stories that pop out to you? I remember I had a nephew, Nolan, who was definitely one of those kids that's like, "Oh, I'm talking to, your great grandmother's name that you've never said in front of me.
Yeah.
She says she misses her favorite chair."
Yeah. Here's my thing is I'm generally creeped out by kids and like don't like being around them. When my wife has like a family that hangs out, and one of the kids was like up to me, and then I picked it up, and they immediately were like, "You have no idea what you're doing," and just started crying.
You just picked him up by his ankle.
I was like, "Is this what you need?" But you know what the thing is? All kids are creepy to me. Anything that looks at a person sleeping and their eyes are closed and then will pull their eyes open to like that is a sensation that I am legitimately terrified. When I am asleep, I have a cat and she wakes. I have 2 cats, but they wake me up and they meow at me. But if they had thumbs and they could peel my eyes open and go, "Are you asleep?" That is that's sociopathic. Now I want you like that is the most terrible thing I could imagine. And like I don't it's funny because like, oh, do you have like a lot of creepy kid stories? No, because kids creep me out, so I stay away from them. Like I'm like, hey, you keep being a kid over there. There you go. You are learning language. I don't even know what that means. Like, what do your thoughts look like? That's horrifying to me.
Yeah, it is crazy looking at a child and just being like, if you just leave the Spanish channel on the TV, that kid will just be bilingual.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. But imagine that, but it could think back 1,000 years. And like, and I'm gonna bring up on the preborn throw their knowledge around all the time. They're not nice about it. Like Aaliyah will just speak in like languages that have been long dead to people who can't understand them because she's being sassy. Like that is so gross. She'll just speak French, and no one spoke French for generations. The idea of France doesn't exist, and she's just speaking French because fuck you.
Terrifying.
Don't worry, there's more. You're gonna be Aaliyah rules though. She is such a cool character, and her story arc is spectacular. She has the best.
Like I said, I already ordered Dune Messiah so I could because I wanted to continue the story. So I'm very interested to see what happens with these people. They discuss some shifts in the marriage arrangement. Hera is going to be leaving Paul soon to become another wife of Stilgar's. They discuss what's going to happen with Chani. Is Chani going to end up in the same situation as Jessica, like forced to be a concubine due to political things? One of Stilgar's wives, Tharthar, which weird name, but hey.
Farfar and Paul and Duncan, Idaho, just blowing them out of
I'm just imagining a hot chick named Tharthar,
the
and I
hat.
can't.
I can't imagine a hot human, like a hot dude. I can't imagine a person with their full faculties being named Tharthar. Tharthar feels like a name that if you were to say something, you'd be like, you can't. That's a mean nickname. That's a behind the back.
Yeah. Like you have been raised to be like a leg breaking goon at that point.
Or you are the drunkest dude at the fraternity. Like you are constantly
Tharthar
in the building. Like that's not. I like the idea that like, Frank Herbert had a buddy named Tharthar. Had a buddy like Tharthar, and he's like, "Hey, we are in the same
Tharthar.
Yeah, frat buddy Tharthar. I put you in the book, and it's like his like jab at Tharthar, who was like slept with his girlfriend years ago, is to make him a concubine. He's like, all right, gotcha, Tharthar, we're even.
Well, Tharthar, pretty much all these women are concerned that when Paul is able to ride the sandworm, he will have to, pretty much the community will demand that he challenge Stilgar for leadership of the tribe, because that is the whole, thing they have set up, even though the rest of the tribe agree that they're better off with Stilgar alive. So yeah, they have this weird cannibalistic culture where it's just like the one leader needs to be tested, but then you always lose the second, third, fourth best guy because he's going to die, making that guy the leader. Alia suggests she will talk with the young men to try and de-escalate the situation because she is a creepy child.
Yeah, I think this is a great example of what Dune does really well, which is like belief systems that are like, you shouldn't do this. Everyone knows it's wrong. Everyone involved is like, they shouldn't fight to the death, but we fight to the death. That's like rule. It's a real rules situation. And like,
it's a real boys will be boys on Arrakis.
It reminds me of, actually, you know what? That story's too long. Who cares? But like, I love this is what we do. Well, we shouldn't do that, but it's what we do. You have to. No one wants to. I do not care. You have to.
So we get right into that in the next one. Although right here, the thing at the beginning, you cannot avoid the interplay of politics within an Orthodox religion. This power struggle permeates the training, education, and disciplining of the community. Because of this pressure, the leaders of such a community inevitably must face the ultimate internal question: to succumb to complete opportunism as the price of maintaining their rule, or risk sacrificing themselves for the sake of the Orthodox ethic. And that pretty much happens right away. Paul rides the sandworm. Stilgar and Paul realize this challenge is coming, and so this entire chapter they're just discussing, I could totally kill you, right? And Stilgar's like, yeah, what should we do? While this is all happening, though, they hear a smuggler's ornithopter flying nearby. They said it. We got another quick quote: "When law and duty are one, united by religion, you never become fully conscious, fully aware of yourself. You are always a little less than an individual."
Woo.
Mwah.
Yeah.
Woo.
I read a whole book just to read that line.
Hell yeah, worth it. So they trap the smugglers, and Gurney Halleck is among them. And this is the first time in years, Paul. This is where they had the Gurney Halleck, man, homie, bruh.
My dude, my guy. Yeah, so good to see you, my dude. My person, bring it up, tap it up.
So good to see you. You killed a lot of my men, Like, there's water under the bridge, Gurney. So he immediately declares his loyalty to Paul, and the two begin plotting how they can destroy the Harkonnens. Brandon, tell me a cool story about a time you reunited with old friends.
Also, I'm going to take a step back. On the planet of Dune, the term "water under the bridge" must be terrible. Like that's just water under the bridge. And like, what? You put water under a bridge? What's that? What do we need to get that water? A time I reunited with friends. The first vacation I ever took, I went to like my old high school friends who, he is my best friend. Because of that, we are always right on the cusp of having a fist fight. Like that is a male relate. It's one of those, and we had like and every hatchet had been buried, and we were just hanging out, and we were good friends. And then we've been playing chess. And what's great about chess for me is I can play chess, but I don't get competitive because I'm bad at it, and I'm never going to be good at it. I
Same.
know I know what each piece does, and I can go along with it, and that's great. Here's the thing about, and then one of his friends were like, "You like chess? Maybe you like backgammon." And I was like, "I've never played backgammon." And backgammon is a game where the rules are a lot simpler, and like at least the surface level concept is a lot easier to get your head around than chess strategy. So me and him sat down for a game of backgammon, and every bit of bad, and we both understood the game, and every bit of bad blood that we had ever had immediately returned, and the hyper competitive nature of our friendship was like right, and like not only the hyper competitive nature of our friendship, but it is not so much that I may win, it is more that you will lose level of our friendship return. And we're like angrily playing backgammon at each other, and his friends are just watching us in terror. And I'm a leftist liberal leaning dude, but they were grad school folk. I don't know how else to say that. They were
Mm.
soft. We are not causing fight. English major. They were English
Right.
major people, like don't cause a fight, and we are fighting over a game of backgammon. And then one of them nervously goes, "You guys are playing pretty competitively." And then we both looked over at him in unison. We went, "You're supposed to win, aren't you?" And then we went back to playing that game of backgammon.
That is beautiful. I love male friendships for that. There's just the hidden threat of violence at all times.
One time he punched me in the face because I said I didn't like the Peanuts Christmas special. That's a real thing. Well, I think that's a bad Christmas special. I was wrong. In fairness, I don't think I deserved to get punched in the face. But
Yeah.
it's basically just Christian propaganda. And then he turned around and punched me in the face. So that was our level. And then I lost that game of backgammon, if you were curious, and we immediately went back to like just hanging out. But like for like that moment, that level of like I will make you lose immediately.
Awesome. So some of the smugglers are undercover Sardaukar soldiers and stage an attack. Freeman easily overpower them, killing most of the fighters and capturing the others. Playing a game of strategy, Paul arranges for some of the captives to escape so they can report. Yeah, just the classic that it's been a trope now. At like, yo, go tell your boss I mean fucking business.
Yeah, I leave one alive.
Yes. Next chapter, the intro. How often it is, I guess, so good. How often it is that the angry man rages denial of what his inner self is telling him.
One of the things that's nice about Dune is all the really good parts. Frank takes the time to put them out on the outside of the chapters, so you can just find them really easy. You don't have to dig for it, other than the fear line. The fear is the mind killer part.
Right.
But like all the really great stuff is already quoted, so you can just be like, "There it is, we're done." You don't have to like dig for it.
Right. So Paul and Stilgar deal with the looming threat of them having to fight, where he pretty much knights Stilgar, who accepts Paul's leadership. The whole idea is that he has dual roles as the Freeman Usul and as Duke Paul. As Duke Paul, he's basically saying, I'm above this. Also, guys, I'm Lisan al Gaib. I'm the fucking prophet you've been asking for thing. And there's a lot of argument, and they just keep, but these are the ways. And Paul continues to say, ways change. Deal with it.
Yeah. And like, I am the living God. Stop fucking doing this dumb thing. And that's what it takes to change it, is to have a living God go, this is dumb, guys. This is not the golden path.
Guys, if you wanted me as your God, clearly you value my opinion, and this is fucking dumb.
Yeah, I also just love the idea that like, you are our God, do what we say, is such an amazing thing. Like you get the idea that people go, you see this is probably one of the underlying ideas of Dune as well, is you do not so much get information from your God, is you give the information you want to your God and have it reflected back on you, even when it is right in front of you. They have to specifically be like, this is what I mean, exactly this, because Paul will be misinterpreted no matter how hard he tries as a God.
Right. They find out that Rabin does not have any backup, so they're basically gonna fuck him up. Fun little thing here. Gurney Halleck still believes that Jessica was the one who betrayed Duke Leto. He unexpectedly attacks her, but then, while he has a knife at his throat, they quickly talk him down. Like, oh, no, it was Dr. Yue. And then Gurney is so ashamed of himself that he demands Paul kill him. And probably my favorite, funniest part of the entire book is Paul, because he had to deal with this with Stilgar and now him, is Paul hilariously responds with annoyance that like all his male accomplices constantly like, I have failed you, please kill me. He's like, another one? For fuck's sake, I need you guys. I cannot have you dropping to your knees and begging me to kill you all the time.
I love the idea of like, dude, you ate all the peanut butter? That's kind of fucked up. And you're like, I've got to murder me.
Brandon, I'm sorry I missed your birthday. Here's a rusty knife. Please do me in. This is what I deserve. I have failed you.
I wish once so Paul would be like, you always tell me to fucking kill you. And then someone would be like, yeah, I'm being sarcastic. You can see all futures, dude. I'm telling a joke myself. Calm down, Paul. Who died and made you God? Oh, your dad did? And then you OD'd on. Okay, well, I guess I was wrong. I guess someone did. I guess your dad died and made you God. My bad.
Boy, is my face sunburnt and red from the twin sons of Arrakis.
Giving up moisture when I shouldn't.
All right, next chapter. In the epigraph from Princess Urulyn's text, The Collected Legends of Arrakis, the princess relates the Muad'Dib's trial in undertaking a dangerous transformation ritual. So yeah, this is weird because the whole thing with him drinking the water of life happens kind of off screen. Like he doesn't mention it, and then in this epigraph, it's mentioned. The water of life, the poison that gives life. Muad'Dib lies in a cave as though he is dead while he is being transported across the lines of times. His experience fulfills the Freeman prophecy of the Lisan al-Gaib, an individual who will be both dead and alive. Well, dead and alive. So yeah, he wants to see if he is in fact the Kwisatz Haderach, the Bene Gesserit prophecy. So he will drink. Usually, this is how the Reverend Mother comes to be, drinking the water of life and having to like chemically filter out change the molecules of everything. No man has ever attempted it and survived.
Yeah, because there's also this very masculine, feminine thing about Dune, and that needs to be parsed out, like what feminine is supposed to be and what masculine is supposed to be. You're not supposed to be a Bene Gesserit witch and be a dude at the same time. That's sort of what Paul is becoming, and like he's sort of becoming the super male witch at the same time. And it is funny that like that's a thing that Frank Herbert goes, hey, Frank Herbert does not necessarily believe in show don't tell, because he'll just be like, something cool happened before he drank the water and passed out. We got to figure out what's going on. Bye bye.
It is a fun way of storytelling because I mean that is how so much of life happens, and that's a feature of early in the book where like Liet Kynes is just like he's dead, like actually he was alive, like now he's dead. And same thing with Duncan Idaho. Duncan Idaho like vanishes as thought dead and then just dies. And so you're constantly, it's a little bit like real life where if you're in these scenarios, like if you're in fucking war, you don't know if your buddy's dead. You'll find out in a few months.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. Good job.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was being shitty about it, and you were like, "No, this is more like real life." Good point.
Yeah, Chani is called by Jessica. They just notice he's been in a coma for 3 weeks. Nobody knows what's happening. She realized that he's attempted the Reverend Mother ritual. She tells Jessica to fetch her the poisonous holy liquid, smearing some of it on Paul's lips. He immediately takes a deep breath. I like that he's immediately like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Sorry about that. Like, you've been in a coma for 3 weeks. It's like, oh, my bad.
You got blackout, dude. You got blackout drunk. Thor was freaking out. And dude, you like fought him. You've been passed out this whole time.
So Jessica's already freaking out, but then Paul's like, no, I'm like you now, grabs her hands and like sends his consciousness into hers. And she's immediately like, I don't like this. What is happening?
Yep.
So yeah, she realizes that he is the Kwisatz Haderach. Paul explains to Jessica and Chani that he now exists at the fulcrum of giving and taking the precious female and male energies that can cross the boundaries of space-time. So he has all these things prophecies. He is the Bene Gesserit's Kwisatz Haderach, the Freeman's Lisan al-Gaib. Oh yeah. So basically, he also reveals that he can see now, like, oh shit, like the Emperor and the Harkonnens and the Guild are all above the planet, ready to attack. Here's the thing, though I know now I can destroy all the spice on the planet. So more or less, think of it as like a Middle East situation. Like we can destroy the oil that you guys all need. So don't fuck with us. And that's pretty much a direct like 1-to-1 comparison, I think.
That is basically a 1-to-1 comparison to this. Except the oil, of course, in this case, is cocaine, caffeine, LSD.
Although it is hinted that they use it for like industrial purposes as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's in everything. It's in like they just put in like rope. There's going to be a thing. And it's not a big plot point again. They're just like, oh yeah, this rope is full of spice. We just put a rope and it's full of spice because we like it. And like it's even in coffee. Like it's in everything. Like it the thing that's so interesting about Dune, the planet Arrakis. The thing that's interesting about Dune Arrakis is spice infiltrates it's in your clothes, it's in your body, like you can never, it engulfs you. And then it is about Paul, who was totally engulfed by this spice.
Yeah. The melange. Next one. And the day dawned when Arrakis lay at the hub of the universe with the wheel poised to spin. So Paul, Stilgar, and Gurney are planning what they're going to do. There is an epic sandstorm coming, and they intend to use that time to attack the Imperial forces by blowing up a wall with atomics, which is banned, but like their logic is like, well, we're blowing up the wall, not the people, you know? So sandstorm arrives. They attack the spaceships. Whole attack goes down. They receive a garbled message over the radio that Aaliyah has been captured and Paul's son Leto has been killed. Again, big death off screen. Paul feels detached and empty at the devastating news, believing everything he touches brings destruction and grief. He knows too that his influence is like a disease that could spread across the universe.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
That's the theme. The secret theme of a book is a dude becomes a god, is not happy about
it. Is sad.
Like is totally bummed out. A dude becomes, it's funny because like in this book, like it's almost the hero's journey, except when like the hero's journey is supposed to like kick in. Paul is like, I don't know, guys, I'm really not having fun anymore. Like when he get, imagine if like you got your magic sword and then you were like off screen and then you were like, I don't know, maybe not. Like that's what the whole book is about.
It'd be if like Luke Skywalker took up the call to adventure, and then after Obi-Wan died, he's like, guys, I'm done. This isn't for me.
This is
and meant it.
Yeah, and meant it. It was like, this is hard, and then like kind of just bailed. About a man who bailed.
Say that again.
It's about the man who bailed.
Yes. I like that. Next one. In the epigraph from Princess Urgulin's text, Arrakis Awakening, Urgulin describes a scene in which the Muad'Dib stands before an audience and proclaims that a captive who seems dead is in fact alive. He claims a close relationship to the captive and knows that because of his influence, she can now see into the future. The Emperor... All right, so the Emperor and Baron Harkonnen are talking shit with one another. They have the captive Aaliyah brought in. The Emperor is furious that the Freeman forces are far more powerful than he reported on. Yeah, then reports told him. He's enraged that a few of his Sardaukar soldiers were able to escape the Freeman. Pretty much, the women and children and elderly fucked up his best forces. So he's already having like, oh shit, I don't know what to do with this. Aaliyah comes in, who looks 4, and she immediately says like, hey, I'm Duke Leto and Jessica's kid, and my brother's the God King. And calls Baron Harkonnen to his face a frightened fat old man too weak to support his own flesh without the help of suspensors. So again, creepy kid just dishing out the burns.
Just dunking on a weird old pedophile. Just let him know you're fat and I hate you. A House Atreides will stomp you into nothing.
God, all right. So I mentioned the weird, creepy kid with my nephew before. He actually had a weird. This one was more like, oh, it's really not that different in how things evolve. We have a cousin who's a lesbian, and she's married to another woman. And as far as this kid was concerned, they've always been together. They've always been, I'll just say, aunt Melanie and Stacy or whatever. That's not their names. But that's
Yeah.
always been the case. And I remember I was with him one day where he was suddenly like, hey, I noticed those two don't have husbands. What's going on with that? And just explain like, oh no, they're together. They like girls. And this 5-year-old kid, you see this in so many of the, and then my son said, yeah, that makes sense. Love whoever. No, and he just looks up and goes, I don't think I like that.
Oh no! Oh no! Also, you put the pre-board, which I'm just Aaliyah is the best example of a little kid being like, "Mother, we must all respect each other." Like that's that, but in the reality of the world. Like
Right.
she would be she is the best example of and then everyone clapped Reddit. But like
Yeah.
like a 4-year-old just comes and like speaks. Maybe when you read those in the future, people share that. Maybe be like, I don't know, maybe they were born during the mother was pregnant during a spice orgy, so they became a preborn and saw everything at all times in the past. So they might actually be ancient.
Ooh, let's hope the movies get big enough that we can make those references and people will understand them. Or
I
enough
mean,
people will.
even if they don't, I'll still have fun.
Yeah, that's all the fun you need. As long as there's somebody else there to appreciate it.
I'm also
The Reverend Mother, I love the Reverend Mother's reaction here is immediately like, we need to kill this kid. Like this is like just immediately like this is an abomination, especially realizing that through the collective memory pool, Aaliyah is actually inside the Reverend Mother's mind because they're a part of this entire tradition. So a little kid walks into your room and suddenly its voice is in your head. And yes, your first reaction would be kill it, kill it, kill it now.
yeah, it's abomination, and like it goes outside of the rules of a world that is very controlled, and the Bene Gesserit who can control a single muscle. The idea that someone could walk in and be like, "Hey, I can control your thoughts," is a fucking nightmare. Like that's living hell for them.
Oh yeah, especially if you've dedicated a lifetime to like your own minute body control, and then a fucking toddler walks in, it's like, "Sup, bitch? I live here too." In your mind.
Yeah, that's it's. I mean, she's this. It's funny because like at the end of the book, they introduce like this weird super character. Everyone gets overpowered at the end of Dune 1. So much so, Paul becomes a king, god king. Aaliyah is born, and then like Lady Jessica, like, but yeah, the power levels go insane. I guess Lady Jessica's still Lady Jessica. She rules. I love Lady Jessica.
She's pretty great. She's pretty great.
Yeah, probably another one of my favorite characters.
I'm curious to see how they play her in the movie. But anyway, so while they're having these negotiations, a wall is blown up. Aaliyah feigns fear, backs up into Baron Harkonnen, and then coming all the way back, set up and pay off in the beginning of the book, fucking gom jabber poison right in the fucking neck. Like that's pretty much it. Like, bye, fatso. See you killed by you. Fucked all the little boys, and a little girl took you down.
Oh,
Bam.
it's so good. I love like it. That is probably the most satisfying kill in the whole thing. Like it just feels good to watch the Baron go down. He sucks so in a world full of morally ambiguous people, he is evil. And he is written evil. And then when he dies, you go, I feel great. I'm never gonna have to see that dude again.
Yes, there is. I gotta admit, I see a little bit of a Trump in him in that he doesn't seem to really bring anything to the table but ruthlessness. It doesn't seem like, I mean, every motion he takes just pisses everybody else off and fucks everybody else. And the only thing he really, it's not like he's known for like, well, you know, he did bring us Medicare for all on Arrakis or whatever. Like, no, just a fat piece of shit fucking over everybody, trying to machinate the wheels of power.
I mean, he is a personification of like self-gratification and like he is what empty blind ambition looks like, and I think and acts like, and I think you can see a lot of those parallels in the billionaire class and specifically in Trump and how he sees himself, and also the difference between how the Baron sees himself. Maybe there isn't that big a difference. The Baron's also like, yeah, I suck. I'm super evil. I'm real. You know who I see him like he's somewhere between Trump and like what Alex Jones feels like to me is like just like I'm sorry, blah blah blah. I'll say whatever the fuck I want. You can't stop me from doing anything. I'll fucking I'm my goddamn rights to the Baron to come murder you. Oh, know this. Like that's what the Baron fucking is.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's just the personification of just consumption, devouring, power, young boys, power.
Yeah, he's a fucking gross slug man. And he's a gross slug man held together with medicine that he had no help making. So yeah, Trump a little bit. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I do also, I just love the image of him that like he has these suspensors that like, so you pretty much get the like it's trying to project a look of power and carrying his own huge weight, and yet he's basically like a bowl of jello, just like rippling under the only like he can't even hold himself up.
I in my mind, I don't know if it's in the book or it's just something I imagined, or it might be like a drawing somewhere. It's just this like blob. I don't even want to call them beast or anything. It's like a blob, and then underneath it's just a bunch of spider legs, like mechanical spider legs holding him up. And that's all he is. And I don't think I feel like it might have been said once before. I think he has his eyes removed. It might have been mentioned. I don't. That might be something I'm making up. I might be getting this confused with Hellraiser again. I might be
again.
But yeah, the fat guy from Hellraiser, Butterball, yeah, he's Butterball. I think is what he looks like in my head, even with the sex gear and everything.
Ooh, I could see Baron Harkonnen in fucking bondage gear would be pretty hot to somebody out there.
I don't hate the idea of him in sex gear. I mean, I hate it, but like this is a world that feels like people are just openly wearing sex gear.
Yes, yeah. It is. Everybody's a Judas Priest fan here. They just don't get it. All right.
Sorry. I took a second to the Baron Harkonnen action figure because there is an action figure of him that exists, and he does look exactly like Butterball. Like whoever made the action figure was just like, let's make a Butterball action figure and remove the sunglasses.
Do you have it pulled up? Can you do a share screen?
Might be. I took it away because I didn't want to do it. But if you type in Baron Harkonnen, you can just find it like immediately.
Okay. Yeah, listeners, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, look up Baron Harkonnen, or just think Butterball.
Butterball. All right, so this is part of the problem. So we're on the final chapter, and I still have 5 pages of fucking notes.
Dude, so much happens in this last chapter.
It does, and unfortunately, to leave like a lot of it out is to miss like the important shit. First, the final epigraph, which is pretty cool. He was warrior and mystic, ogre and saint, the fox and the innocent, chivalrous, ruthless, less than a god but more than a man. There is no measuring Muad'Dib's motives by ordinary standards. In the moment of his triumph, he was the death prepared for him, yet he accepted the treachery. Can you say he did this out of justice? Remember, we now speak of the Muad'Dib who ordered battle drums made from the skins of his enemies, who denied the conventions of his ducal past with a wave of the hand, saying merely, I am the Kwisatz Haderach, and that is reason enough. Fuck.
Yeah, it's funny because there's this play of like, is Paul the God King, or is he the prophet of the God King? That is the tension is an underlying tension throughout the book. And it's an underlying tension in Paul's own heart. If you think about, Frank's probably looking at American, looking at European and Christian values there a little bit. And like, Paul is both, Jesus is both God and man, and so is Paul. And there's a lot of parallels between the Jesus story arc and the God story arc. That what is Paul? That he is still a man at heart, but there's this like level of like, you're a man and you still have all like the weird worries of a man, but like you're also just staring at everything at all the time. So is Paul God, or is Paul prophet of God? And is the prophet the same as God? Is this underlying tension that he holds within himself? And that's just that quote right there. Also, a lot of bad stuff is going to happen from tonight. A lot of really fucked up shit.
Right.
Happens way down the line. But boy, did we like it when we got that Baron stab, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Yeah, just the weird of combining both those things of being both man and God, of still being like weak flesh and blood. Because like, yes, I can see all the timelines of the cosmos as they stretch out before me, but also sometimes I don't wipe well enough because I'm still a human.
It's the so do you know the very famous and notorious piece of art, Piss Christ?
Yes, I am well aware of it. Go ahead, you describe it.
Well, it's a small figurine that is submerged in the artist's blood and urine. It is a picture of it submerged in his blood and urine. It's about halfway up and down. And so there's a lot of stuff that we can take apart with that. We're only going to look at one thing about it. There's another piece called Piss Light. It is the same picture, but it's dead on, right? It's the same image of the little plastic crucifix. We can talk forever about art and whatever. But what is interesting is that does not, he did it to a lot of things. It's sort of his thing. He also did the cover of Metallica's Load and Reload. Look up what those are on your own time.
Semen. Okay.
Yep. So what is interesting though is Piss Light doesn't have a lot of controversy around it, while Piss Christ does. It is partially because the idea of thinking about Jesus Christ just taking a pee, which isn't sacrilegious. Jesus Christ had one day, Jesus Christ ate too much pita and fucking had like a real bad constipation day. It was just like, Jesus fucking, he didn't say Jesus because it's his own name, but he was just like, oh, and nothing I said about that is sacrilegious, but boy, does it feel sacrilegious to say that. And that is what this book is about. Is it's like, what if Paul, it just has like sand. Jesus Christ had sand in his crotch at one point and it was just like, this sucks. I hate today. I'm hot and it is humid and I'm miserable because he is man. And that is one of the many things this book is about. Kill your idols. I let them take a piss.
Yeah, that is an incredible. I mean, that is a direct one-to-one Jesus thing, and again, things people don't talk about. Where the entire highlight of Christ is that he is also man, but then he would have all the Jesus would wake up with awkward morning boners, but because he doesn't sin, he can never handle it.
Yeah, or well, terrible. That it might be different than that. He might be able to handle it. Who knows what sexuality and how fucked up by the Europeans. Also, Jesus, when he yelled at Judas about how there was always being poor people, Vonnegut taught me this. Like in a week, Judas is going to turn on Jesus, and Jesus knows this. And he has like a nice day where a lady is touching his feet, and his feet probably hurt, and he probably was like, "Hey, Judas, can you calm down, please? Can you chill out?" And then there are always going to be poor people, so like, let's not be a jerk to me right now. And then now Jesus said that to Judas one day because he had a bad moment with his friend where he knew he was going to betray him, and now Republicans use that to justify that there are poor people living on the streets. That's the same thing Paul is dealing with.
Yep. One tiny moment of frustration leads to the prosperity gospel, mega churches, Tammy Faye Baker, Joel Osteen. All because his feet hurt and Judas had to be a dick.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite Vonnegut things is that little section from I don't remember what even book that's from. But Vonnegut that one is spectacular in general. But yeah, that's the whole thing about Paul is like at any moment, if he like sneezes wrong, he's gonna like set off all these things. And he knows he's gonna set these things off. So let's go fuck some people up. That's what's cool about the book too. Is at the end, he's like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go kill some folk.
Exactly. At a certain point, you can't control anything. You just got to kill some folk. And that's what happens right here. Paul takes his rightful place on the Arakeen throne. Rabban has been killed off screen, the best way to die. He asks that Chani be brought to him, knowing that she will be grieving their son's death. He is also grieving, but pushing it out of his mind in the same way he did after his father died. Aaliyah has a telepathic communication with Paul where she tells him that she killed the Baron. When Stilgar returns to find the Baron's body, he's shaken by Paul's demonstration of all-knowing knowledge once more. The young Duke notices that Stilgar is awed by him, following his every command. And I feel this line here. He realizes that such a moment lessens a man, that he has seen that he has lost a friend who has become a worshiper, which is a bummer because they started out as equals. I mean, actually, they started out with Stilgar being the more powerful of the two, but Stilgar has just seen too much of the power. Paul still feels numbed of emotion, but tries to comfort Chani, promising they'll have more sons together. Don't worry, baby.
Hello, baby.
We'll get right on that as soon as I'm done killing this motherfucker. As the Emperor's group approaches, he notes Fade Routha is in the group. Gurney asks Paul if he wants him removed. Paul says let him stay. Halleck notes that the guild have also been in contact making demands. Jessica is shocked by Paul's casual dismissal of the guild, but he knows his control over the spice puts them in the palm of his hands. Paul also thinks on the process that has brought the guild to ruin. With their limited foresight, quote, they'd always chosen the safer, clear course that leads ever downward into stagnation. Just, Paul also spies a slight man in the party who he has never seen in his dreams or reality before, instantly recognizing the man's dangerous presence, whose face carries a marker of fear. It is Count Fenring, a genetic. So this is the thing. He is a genetic eunuch and killer who lived in Arakeen before the Atreides took over. What we're going to find out about him is that he was almost the role that Paul is in. He got fucked over because he was a eunuch and couldn't have kids. But like they attempted what Paul became, Count Fenring was supposed to be.
And like it asks this question, and maybe because I haven't read the second book in a while. I know it's not explored in the third because that's the one I accidentally read. It asks this big question of like, are there billions of these? Is there a bunch of almost Pauls? And if they were to join forces, could they fight a Paul? Like what? Like is the universe? Are there? Like, we know in the known universe there is a Dune and there is a Dune planet. And we're going to spend most of our time on this Dune planet. We never really leave there in the trilogy. We get in space, but we never really hang out in other planets. And like you sort of go there, but not like we're hanging out in Dune for the most part. Right. It's not like Star Wars where like we're just going to other planets and there's a whole fucking side story on the ice planet as well. Yeah, you don't go to a ice planet and get sugar to go with your spice. Very proud of that. And then you go. It's spice. It's so smart. It's about because it's also about colonialism because we're trying to take over the spice because that's what colonialism did.
Spice
so
trade.
Yep. But that's like it's such an interesting little knot of like there are near poles out there. What are near poles like? And I don't want to let people down. That's not the path we go down.
They're not gonna follow it. Yeah. But it's still a super. I mean, again, think of the ideas of like attempted Jesuses around the time. Just like weren't quite there. Didn't get all of the holy seed. But anyway, pushing forward, we see Hawat. Say it again.
It's just the idea of I guess demigod is different, but like a near god is such an interesting concept. This is a near god. It's not God. It's not a prophet. It's a near prophet. Something's wrong here. We know this is a dead end, but a lot of weird shit's gonna happen too. What up?
Yeah. We see the old Atreides family Mentat Hawat, who has been kept enslaved by the Baron this entire time. He looks old and frail, but Paul is glad to see him. Hawat immediately apologized to Lady Jessica after, like Gallic, he had blamed her for the betrayal. Now that they are reunited, Paul states that because of Hawat's many generations of service, Paul is willing to give the Mentat anything he asks for, even Paul's life. Hawat is shocked, realizing that Paul has not, pretty much the Emperor has put him to task. Like, he's going to be glad to see you. Here's another poison needle. Stab him. Paul reaches out to support Hawat, who is almost dead on his feet due to the Harkonnen poison. The Mentat manages to turn proudly to face the Emperor, revealing the poison needle the Emperor gave him and declaring he will not betray his service to House Atreides in this final hour. Paul catches Hawat as he collapses, dead. In the new movie, I'm familiar with the actor who plays Hawat, and I don't think we're going to get to it in the new movie because it's not the entire story, but I am looking forward to that scene because that guy is a hell of a fucking actor, and I picture him doing this.
That rules. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Are you excited for the new movie? I think I am.
I am. I very much am. Yeah, I'm probably going to go see it. I think it comes out next week. It's coming out in the U.S. last, which is so strange.
Good for them.
Yeah. So the Emperor tries to talk down to Paul, but Paul curtly dismisses his posturing as foolish. Turns his attention to the two guildsmen. They refuse Paul's authority, but he reminds them, guys, I'll destroy all your fucking spice. Paul addresses the Reverend Mother, who is the one who tested him with the Gom Jabber in the beginning. And this is a gnarly moment where he's straight up like, hey, I am the one. Thank you for getting me to this point. Guess what? Now that I'm here, oh wait, she yells out like, I forgive Jessica for her rebellion. And Paul says like, you have nothing to forgive. You're nothing to her. And straight up says like, hey, I know it took 90 generations to make me, but guess what? I'm not helping your cause. Fuck you guys. And so their big prophecy has just fallen apart because they're straight up like, I'm not helping you.
Yep. Yeah. It's one of the great, like if you make a god, you can't, be careful inventing gods. They will do what they want. You do not tell God what to do. Like you
Mhm.
can't tell the God or the prophet what to do. They choose and then you follow. That's how it goes.
That's right.
I love the Bene Gesserit. They're so weird and gross and upsetting, but like not like the not like in like an open way. Like they're holding breeding programs. The bad guys usually are the ones.
Eugenics.
Yeah, they're eugenics, and there's this like casual like, yeah, we eugenic, we eugenic a little bit here and there. We quietly interfere to try to invent our God King. Yeah, we're the Bene Gesserit. It's okay.
So Paul turns his attention to Princess Urulon. Straight up says, like, hey, we could end this right now if I marry her. Like, she's only going to be my wife in name. Chani is still, like, my love. But, like, so putting that thing on, taking the extra step Duke Leto never had to do. Straight up saying, like, I'll marry her. But, like, you're even, again, being very blunt with Chani later on, just being like, she's going to have a miserable life. Like, she's going to be, like, a queen. But who gives a shit? Like, you're going to have all the power. She's going to stay in a room somewhere.
Yeah, she is queen by name only, and she just I have no like. I also like the fact that like I'm not mad at her. I'm just it's a political. She's my vice president basically.
Mm-hmm. So Paul, Fade Ralpha calls out Paul and invokes the right to individual combat. Paul accepts, which his people are like, why are you taking this risk? You already won. But he realizes obviously he needs to do this to put himself out. Also, I mean, it's kind of hinted that Fade Ralpha has been, well, not hinted, Fade Ralpha has been groomed very much the same way as Paul, just, to different ends, even though Paul taunts him early on, asking, are you ready to fight, cousin? He does this to reveal to the mother, I almost said brother superior, the Reverend Mother, that like, yeah, that's right. I know Harkonnen was our grandpa, which I hope they get deeper into that because like how?
Okay, I'm gonna say this. It's gonna rule. It's gonna
Yeah.
rule. It rules. It absolutely. It's one of. It is. The Harkonnen arc is awesome. It doesn't. It's gonna. You don't think it's gonna show up, and then it shows back up, and it throws like elbows at. Like it's so mean and good, and you're just like, I hate this. Why are you back? And you're there like the Harkonnens will. The Harkonnens rule in like a bad way. Like they're bad, but like
Right. They're great heels.
yeah, well, they went on a desert planet, decided to rule it, and then we're like, yo, I need to keep a real nice garden on here.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. Well, what book do we find that out? Is that going to be in Children?
Yeah, I know it's in Children. I don't remember if they show up in Emperor.
Okay.
Emperor,
The
Prophet. Which one's the second one?
Messiah.
Messiah. So it's Messiah, Children, God King, or God Emperor. That I forget.
The Reverend Mother is terrified at the outcome of two Bene Gesserit end products now fighting each other to the death. As the two men circle each other, Fade Ralpha is exceedingly confident in his taunts and knife thrusts. This is where we're getting the feint within a feint within a feint. He's trying to, much like everything else, he has a poison needle in his like underwear or whatever they're fighting in. They call it a girdle or something. I don't know. But yeah, there's a poison dart in there. So he's trying to bring him in, not even with the knife. He's trying to bring him in for that. But Paul sees through all of it. And after a well-matched fight, Paul gains the upper hand and kills the Harkonnen, which I can't do it justice. It is an extremely entertaining action scene in the book to read that I liked a lot.
Especially the first book. The later books are a little more uneven in this. They're a mix of like it's not action packed. It's not. Dune is not action packed. There are moments of very stillness, but when it hits, they are violent and they are like full of thought and aggression. And because it took you time to get there, it means stuff. And the idea of the two. I mean, it's they're the two best fighting each other to find out who gets to stay the best. And like in some ways the entirety of the book Dune is the training process to watch Paul fight this dude and and become the one, the spectacular jet
leader. Seeing Paul's triumph, the Emperor turns to his most trusted friend, the Count Fenring, and orders him to kill Paul at once. Fenring and Paul look at each other, and Paul realizes why he's never seen the man in his dreams, that he was the almost Kwisatz Haderach. Count Fenring has instead turned his considerable talents into introspective existence. Through their momentary connection of brotherhood, Fenring can feel Paul's deep sympathy for him, and for the first time in his life, he counters the Emperor's order, stating, "Majesty, I must refuse." The Emperor strikes Fenring across the face. Paul starts to set out his terms to take the throne, as well as pretty much, "I'm marrying Princess Urulon. The Emperor will step down and move to Seleucus Secundus." The Emperor complains that Paul is breaking his bond for safe negotiations, but Paul's just like, look, I'm keeping my bond, but also I'm kind of like a god, and I'm not beholden to any of your bullshit like pleasantries. He predicts the Freeman will be able to terraform Arrakis into a paradise, and that he cannot stop the Freeman Holy Crusade that will one day sweep across the Imperium. So before I get too far with Count Fenring's fatal flaw, I had a question. Do you think you have any fatal flaws that have held you back?
Yeah, mostly fatal flaws. I'm like 99% fatal flaws. Like I'm like a bunch of fatal flaws and some good luck, and that's it.
Yeah, same. I think of my anxiety disorder and how much it has fucked me over and held me back, particularly from like comedy and shit, because I really don't like to travel, which you kind of need to do for comedy, and it's shit I'm working on.
So this is what I was thinking about. I was at a street fair, and they were selling like weird outsider artists, art stuff like taxidermy and juggling and stuff I like, and spray painting coffins on bullshit and spray painting bullshit on coffins. And I was like, man, I just hate everyone here. And then I went in my head, and every event I had the thought, I hate everyone here. And at some point, I have to realize this is me. This is my fault. I've been to heavy metal shows and thought, I hate all these people. I've been to punk rock shows. I thought I hate all these people. I saw Fish. I thought I hate all these people. I've been to ballet shows. I thought I hate all these people. I've seen monster trucks. I thought I hate all these people. And I think it's me. It can't be them. At some point, it becomes me just being a miserable prick and not their fault.
Yeah, at a certain point, you do need to come to terms with that, of like, oh, this is working fine for everybody else. It's just me being like, this is fucking stupid. If I were doing this, I'd do it a different way, despite the fact everybody else is clearly fine with how it's working, but not for me.
Yeah, exactly. Like at some point, you just have to be like, well, where are you going to go where you're not going to think something is lame? Like, why? Like, you're not, and like, these folk have people seeing them and they're having a good time. And you're out here not seeing them, not having a good time. So who's wrong? Why do you think you're better than them? Because you have this false misery. Like, get over yourself. Get out there. Go work. Go have fun. Mm-hmm. Which I'm working on. I want to be clear. I'm working on that.
But. Yeah. I do feel like a lot of like these fatal flaws we talk about are things that are actually like kind of natural in like teenage years. And the problem is a lot of people don't grow out of them.
I 110% agree. I was actually thinking about that. It's like, we live in an age where like nostalgia is like a real thing on every level in every direction. And like, I'm not against it, but there is a time to give up childish things. And I'm not necessarily saying don't play video games anymore, but I'm saying there's a time where you have to just be like, yeah, it was cool to like be a outsider, but like go fucking start having fun, you weird loser. Like, stop being, you're not better. Listen, neither of us are fucking better than dudes on Shakedown Street at Dead & Company right now. You're not. They're fucking fine. Now, their patchouli does suck. I'll say that. But, like, they're fine. They're doing fine. They're having a good time. They're forming a community. You just don't, you're just being a prick. Like, and that's, like, my big problem, I think. It's like, I'm just being a prick.
Yeah. That took me a long time with comedy, honestly. Like, it was just, I feel like just because this is a little bit, there's always opening of new opportunities, but it is very much a zero-sum game in that, a spot somebody else gets is a spot you are not getting. And yes, you can make more spots, but it might not be of the same value. And at a certain point, it's like, why am I mad at everybody else? And I have to deal with that when good friends of mine get success, and I need to be like, good for them. That piece of shit. I'm so much better than them. But like, clearly that's me.
It is hard to remember. It's hard not to play. Why not me? Why not Raven? Right? Raven, the wrestler, not the spot I run. Because he was a heel when he did that. Remember that when Raven was doing "Why not me? Why not Raven?" He was the bad guy. And the other thing is, and I have to remind myself this constantly, is other people's success is not your failure.
Yes.
Their success is not your failure, and that's my like, and then like I struggle with it every day, and I get better at it, and I have things that I'm very successful at, but like I'm inherently miserable, and I'm just working on not being that, and not being like, I am proud. I make cool art stuff. I make T-shirts. I have a gallery that's open. That's all very good. But in my brain, I'm like, fucking 30 people came to your gallery, not 35. Why didn't 5 people come to your fucking gallery?
Dude, that is the weird double-edged sword of that mentality, is because I definitely have it both ways, where I will literally from one thought to the next have like, I am so much better than this. Why aren't I getting these opportunities? And then that leads immediately to like, I'm a worthless piece of shit. I should just give up. I've never been good. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, are you God King, or are you failed Jesus? Because you can't seem to decide in your own brain like what you deserve here.
Yeah, I think that's what makes like uh God King, or Prophet Paul, we'll call him, the Mahid.
Muad'Dib.
Mahid. Thank you. Man, all those names are all the names that don't sound English are all close enough to stuff that sounds Arabic that if I fuck it up too much, I'm being
Yeah.
yeah, the Maid, uh, like that's his whole fucking deal. Is like, am I God King? Am I failed Jesus? And like that's his character. That's what his character is from the moment he does the spice trance and stares into the depth, into the nothingness, and then from there on out, it's am I God King, or am I a failed Jesus? And that's all. That's. And then at one point he goes, "Fuck it, I'm failed Jesus. I want to fuck these people up," which is great. It's kind of cool, and the fact that the book treats that like something to celebrate is fascinating.
Hell yeah. All right. We've come to the final paragraph of my notes here. As dowry, Paul demands the Padisha Emperor's entire Choam holdings and titles. That's the big company, but basically the East India Tea Company, or like the spice company, as well as holdings for Gurney Halleck and all other surviving members of House Atreides. Jessica considers that she may like to live on Caladan again one day, and Paul claims that he will be making Stilgar the governor of Arrakis. When asked, Chani says that she wants for nothing. She is still saddened by her grief and Paul's marriage of politics. He reassures her again that he is hers and hers alone, and that they will bear more children together. Jessica assures Chani that history will remember her as Atreides' wife, despite their status as concubines. And that's it. And that's, again, weird place to end it, because it's not confirmed he's going to get this. This movie could end with Chani on Paul's arm just being like, you're always my number one girl. The end.
Yeah, it's so. I don't know how you make Dune can be a miniseries. Like it has that I have never read Game of Thrones, but that Game of Thrones, like you can be like more morally ambiguous in a miniseries than, or like a TV series, than you can with a movie. And I know they did a miniseries in 2000s. I did not watch it. But like, at least like Core Dune is so weird, and so like it has action and it has cool stuff in it, but like Core Dune is so not built with thought of movie at all. So it'll be very interesting to see what, like, so when I saw the preview and they did what's his name? Who's playing Duncan Idaho? He's famous. He's
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, Jason Momoa is playing him. And then Duncan Idaho laughed and he was like, "Oh, come here and hug me." And I'm like, that's not Duncan Idaho. Duncan Idaho like wouldn't touch your whole, you would never hug in the world of Dune. You like
Right.
you wouldn't, like, you touching is something that doesn't happen, because if you hug Duncan Idaho and then something got bad in Duncan Idaho's brain, he would get you with the poison, you'd be fucking dead. And like that immediately. And like it was so weird to like watch him be like, "Haha," and then like tap his arm, and I'm like, these are people that like stand perfectly still and stare at each other And like, you don't tap someone's arm to say you like them. You go, and that's all you get. You get one. I just for listeners, I raised my eyebrow just a little bit. I raised my eyebrow just a tiny little bit, not a lot, and that's all you get. And it's probably like that would be like a huge show of emotion for the Atreides is to like raise an eyebrow a little bit because it's the whole thing is like a parry within a parry and a feint within a feint within a feint within a feint. Like the whole thing is this game of like you move two steps to the left, I'm going to get you with my poison dart. But if I get you with my poison dart, I know that you have a dart that immediately shoots out of your neck when you get hit with the poison dart. So because of this knowledge between us, we're friends. That's what makes us friends.
Right. It's literally it's taking the concept of nuclear mutually assured destruction and applying it to interpersonal relationships.
Yeah. There's this. Do you mind if I take one step forward in the book to talk about a thing? It's just nice. That's in one of the later books. Is how you talk about your friends. Is you say how many times they would have to betray you for you to poison them. And there's poison 1 and there's poison 2. There is no poison 3. Like that's that world. Is like you get me once, you get me twice, but like I know I have one plan to poison you or I have 2 plans to poison you. And if I have 2 plans, we're best friends. We're on poison 2 level at this point. And like it's so I feel it's funny because I was talking about the thing. You remember the fatal flaw that we talked about? It's showing up for me in these movies hardcore. Like I'm so like, it's not gonna be good. It can't be good. It's not. And he touched his arm. It can't be good. That's how all it took.
Ruined.
Huh?
I said ruined.
Ruined. Yeah. That's not my Duncan Idaho. My Duncan Idaho has a crew cut. I don't know why he has a crew cut in my head, but
They're space marines. We've been conditioned to think of them with crew cuts.
Yeah, he's very much a space marine. It'll be interesting. No, I'm not gonna say anything past that. But yeah, I'm very interested in what you think of the next book. I think that one's my favorite in the series. It's the most actiony. The next 2 books sprawl pretty bad though. They have a sprawl problem that the first book doesn't have because you're pretty much following one character. Maybe you're following.
You're jumping around, but even when you do, it's all like you're going to the Harkonnens, and it's how they relate to the main character who we're really following.
Yeah, it's the story of the Harkonnens and the Atreides, and that's pretty. And then like everyone else is sort of not dressing, but it's how the Harkonnens and the Atreides are using the people around them. That's what this story is very much about, and how they interact, how these 2 families interact.
Wow, Brandon, thank you for bringing me to the conclusion of our 2-month 8-episode series on Dune. Even if you read the wrong book for research, which is just hilarious.
I think I did a pretty good job. I think I brought an okay A game.
You know your shit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If you get to the 3rd book on this podcast, there are things I don't have to be on that episode. I'm not saying that. There are things that I need to like point out in that episode, in that book, and that's all I need to do. I would love to be on this podcast again. Obviously, you did an excellent job. Thank you very much. But if you do the 3rd book, it's just like, and then Brandon chimes in, and I can just be like, isn't it weird that this happened? And that's all I said. That's all I need to say is I just have, there's stuff I love in that book. And there's a scene that is so bizarre in that book that I read it again. And the first time I read it, I thought I made it up. I was like, I can't go on this podcast and say that scene that definitely didn't happened. And then I read it. I'm like, no, it's here. It's fucking here. So yeah.
Wow. Well, we will definitely have you back because at this point, I think we're going to do it differently. If anything, I would probably do the entire book maybe as 1 episode, but we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
It gets smaller from here. The size of the books get smaller.
They do? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not quite as hefty as Dune because Dune's one of the big heavy ones.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for being here today. Again, everybody check out his stuff. Check out Awful Wrestling, which I hope I get to be a part of again. I only appeared once as the Body Shamer, but God, it was a lot of fucking fun. And that's still at Philomoka, right?
Check Awful Wrestling. I don't want to talk out of tone. I feel like it might have got moved, but yeah, it's in November. go to Awful Wrestling and you'll find it out. Follow that. Follow Lasagna Club. We'll let you know.
Awesome. So yeah, and go to Raven Lounge, go to Nacho Mike. What's the other place you ran?
The Interstate. Just give me a sec.
I thought you said Coffee House.
No, it's like, just give me Paul Atreides is a boy through a lot of this, which I think is something important that you have to remember, is he's notably young pretty much the whole time, which is a thing that I think is very interesting. It is at it's at Interstate Draft House, and that's on Palmer Street, and it is they did not do. Okay, it's on November 4th. The Interstate Draft House. I'm hosting a showcase there. It's gonna be fun. Come buy me drinks. We can talk about Dune, PKD, or Vonnegut, whichever one.
Oh yeah, that's right. I need to have you back for a Vonnegut podcast. I would love just a Vonnegut round. Vonnegut is one. When I give our friends shit for only reading comic books and not reading real books, what I'm really getting in their face is like, you are not reading Vonnegut. You are not learning what it is to be an introspective man.
Yeah,
From
I loved even the bad Vonnegut. I like. There's
Same.
a point. There's a point where Vonnegut's supposed to get bad, but he just gets incredibly weird. Timequake is one of my absolute favorite books.
I fucking love Timequake. Fuck art, by the way.
Because like Timequake sits down and goes, "Hey, I was going to write a novel, and it didn't work out. So I'm just going to tell you about my life," and then proceeds to tell you the novel and just does the novel. It's one of the best pieces of metafiction around because he just plays it both so well. Oh, I love Timequake.
I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do a Vonnegut series where you and I force people who have never read Vonnegut to read Vonnegut.
Cool. We'll do Vonnegut, and then we're going to do PKD because I need other people to do Philip K. Dick.
I don't know what's PKD.
Philip K. Dick.
K. Dick. Took me a sec. I've never read any. Where should I start?
So I love Philip K. Dick. If you like Dune, I think you're going to like Philip K. Dick. He writes a lot like Frank Herbert, where like his characters are kind of flat, but he's like Frank Herbert if Frank Herbert was like a schizophrenic, heroin addicted, crazy, because he's schizophrenic and he got super addicted to speed, and he's crazy in a way that I'm not saying that like a compliment, but it makes for a very interesting read. And he also he's a Kilgore Trout. He's absolutely, people think that Philip K. Dick is Kilgore Trout. I think he's a better writer than that, but his characters are like flat and weird, but his ideas are mind blowing. And also he has 50 ideas in one book. He'll just have 50 ideas and be like, oh yeah, it's space aliens, but it's also memory, but also it's about how time travel would drive you insane, but also it's about addiction, and it's all happening at the same time. And I'm never going to finish the whole thought. And yeah, there's this book called Valis, and it's it's the most mind-boggling. Like, Valis is like, it's the most adult book I've ever read. And what you should do, Valis is so good that there are no good reviews of Valis. Either people hate it with a passion, or they think it's the greatest book ever written, and it is their religion. There is nothing in between.
All right, I am looking into that then. So, Brandon, Thank you for bringing us to this conclusion of Dune. Like I've said many times on this podcast, and we'll say again, I'm going to stop recording, but you and I can keep talking. Thank you for doing this.